I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
This is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we trust a random politician who we just met over our family, I guess, because this week we watched 42.
Written by Chris Chibnall.
Directed by Graham Harper.
And aired on May 19th, 2007.
Yeah, so this episode's airing was pushed back a week because of Eurovision.
Oh,
Eurovision was on...
It's a worthy cause.
Eurovision was on May 12th, so we'll push Doctor Who back a week, so... I think this is the first episode of the reboot that got delayed transmission-wise, I think. I don't know, though. I don't remember anymore.
What was the first episode of Doctor Who ever that got pushed back?
Are you asking what is?
I mean, I'm just putting it out there.
Oh.
You probably don't know. But
no, I don't know. But it's not this one.
No, it's not.
Anyway, apparently the main thrust behind this episode, I guess, was Russell T and Chris Chibnall like, we should do an episode that's set in real
time. We should write something good. And then they made this. Should
Not
do
quite.
Something good for a change.
They wanted to do something set in real time, like 24, which was apparently a big thing when this aired. I don't know if you've heard of 24. It was like a big American series. 24 is...
I think I've heard of it. I just don't know what it is at all.
So the concept behind 24 was it was about this character, I think his name was Jack Bauer. And basically the season consists of 24 episodes. I mean, every episode takes place in real time over the course of 1 hour, and it's basically about Jack trying to prevent a terrorist attack or trying to solve a murder in real time over the course of the 24 hours that the season runs over.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I think it ran for...
I've heard of that, I think. I've just never...
Something like 7 seasons, I want to say.
Oh.
Or 6 seasons, and then they just did like a special half-length season recently, and then they tried to reboot it with a different cast, like a sequel series, and it completely flopped, and that was canceled after one season.
The more reboots and remakes fail, the better. Not Doctor Who, though, I guess. Oh, the Doctor Who reboot was like a reboot before reboots started to oversaturate everything.
Yeah, that's fair. It also wasn't like a proper reboot. It was like a...
It was like, let's just start making this again.
Let's just start it up again. Start up the money press again. Start printing money. So it begins... Well, it begins with the Doctor and Martha in the TARDIS, and the Doctor's supercharging Martha's phone like he did with Rose's, except Martha has a way cooler flip phone, which were all the rage in 2007.
Yeah. Then again, they don't get that Nokia money, so...
Oh no! What are we gonna do without that Nokia money?
Nokia was one of the biggest phone companies. By companies, I mean company that makes phones, not like a phone, like a service provider. But yeah, they were one of the biggest before the smartphone revolution, I guess.
Yeah, before they fell behind.
Before they failed.
before they just completely collapsed.
I'm pretty sure they still make phones. I think they make smartphones now. It's just that nobody buys them.
I think they took so long to get into the market, and their phones are so questionable in quality compared to the big ones that they just can't keep up.
Yeah.
Kind of like when Microsoft introduced the Windows Phone.
Well, I mean, I've actually seen people with Windows phones.
That's a miracle, because I haven't seen anybody with a Windows Phone. Anyway,
yeah. So now Martha can call her mom, which she does multiple times in this episode. So, better than Rose at least, as far as keeping in touch goes.
I mean, yeah,
then
but
again, her mom is... we'll get to her mom later. The scenes with her mom, this was my favorite episode of the 2005 series by far. This is one of the best Doctor Who episodes ever made, in my opinion. And the scenes with Martha's mom were some of the best. This is like top 5 for me.
Next week's two-parter is in the top 10 for me, so we'll see what you think of that.
I was prepared to hate this episode. As soon as it started, I was like, oh, geez, 42, I knew this took place in real time. I was like, yeah, whatever. This is probably going to suck. But, yeah, maybe those low expectations are why I was so blown away by it.
Or maybe it was just good. I mean, I think it was good.
Yeah, there's that too. Also, it was about ecology, so... Yeah, I'm a fan of ecology as far as its use in, like, fiction.
Yeah, are you like a hardcore ecologist?
No.
Okay, fake fan. There's actually... There was a prelude to this story randomly written that was put up on the BBC website. I read it before.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to read that. Yeah, I forgot to read it.
It doesn't really add anything to the story except, what's her name? She dies. Irina. It's basically about Irina and how she faked her way faked her credentials to get on the ship, basically.
Wow.
But she was happy because no one treated her badly because she was like just a waitress, and she told them that she was like an engineer because she studied engineering like in her free time, and she was happy because no one on the ship treated her differently. They just treated her like a normal person instead of like looking down on her for being a waitress. And then so the prelude ends like, basically the plot of the prelude is the engine's cut out when she's in one section of the ship, and she's like, why is the engine cut out? And she's trying to find out. She's calling the people on the ship, and they're like, we don't know, but we got to shut down all the doors because it's getting too hot in here. And then so the doors start closing and she runs through them, and then the prelude ends right when she runs into the room with the Doctor and Martha, which is where the episode where we're explaining actually happens, because the Doctor and Martha land on the ship and they come out of the door, and this lady comes running to the door and says like, why'd you guys close the door? I almost got stuck in there. That's where the prelude ends.
And where the episode begins, I guess.
Yeah. Because the TARDIS is locked in this door, and apparently all the excess heat is being vented into that room for some reason.
I think someone, the Doctor or Martha, probably touches the door, and they're like, oh, hot.
Oh, hot.
Or, maybe they don't touch the door. I don't remember anyone's hand getting, third-degree burns, so that probably didn't happen. But anyway, they're like, yeah, don't go in there or you'll die.
Yeah,
by the way, we're hurtling into the sun.
1,000 or 2,000 degrees Celsius in there already. So all the excess heat is being vented in there.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, that's the only way off the ship.
They're like, hey, what's going on? There's a lot of really quick dialogue here at the beginning, which, I guess just had to be crammed in here super fast.
Mm-hmm.
They explain some of what's going on. You don't know that they're hurtling into a sun yet, but, you find that out within a couple minutes. You find out that the only way to get the ship stabilized or whatever is that they have a series of locked doors that they need to get through.
Yeah, because they need to restart the engine, and the engine room's at the other end of the ship through all the locked doors.
Yeah, each door has its own code, which is just a question that there's like one crew member per question, and it's just some like trivia thing, or like what's my favorite color, I think was one of them, or something like that.
Yeah, so there's only 7 people on the ship. But the one guy, I don't remember which one. Yeah, we should probably
explain who they are.
One of the people, I don't remember who, explains that, they got drunk one day and set all the questions when they were drunk. So they don't remember necessarily most of the questions, but he said the reasoning for them setting their own questions instead of using the default ones was because they were thinking if they were hijacked, then they were the only ones who had the answers to all the questions, so they had to be kept alive if they ever got hijacked.
Yeah.
Then they could think of a way to, overpower their captors, I guess.
I mean, that's a good plan, I guess. I mean, it totally backfires on them here, but
a little bit. Yeah, so the crew.
Yeah, so we have Captain what's-her-face?
McDowell.
Yeah,
Captain
McDonnell. And
she's married to
Corwin, who is dying as they speak.
There's also Ashton, who's the chief engineer, I think.
Yeah, Ashton Kutcher, who at the end of this just reveals it was all a big prank. No.
And then there's Irina, so that was the girl who was running in the beginning. Her purpose isn't really defined in the story, but she's there.
I mean, she dies pretty quickly anyway.
And then there's Riley, who's a guy who's one of the pilots, I guess. Yeah, he's just a guy.
I mean, they're a cargo ship, so,
Yeah.
I guess a lot of them are just there to, fly the ship or carry stuff, so.
Riley's the one who's with Martha, opening all the doors. And then there's Scannell, who's just another guy. And then there's Abby, and she was the medical lady.
Yeah, she also dies, I believe. So
yeah.
She and Irina aren't that fleshed out. Not that the other ones really are either. Well, Riley kind of is.
Well, so Abby's got...
Or a Scannell, or whoever was in the escape pod was kind of fleshed out.
Yeah. So Abby's got, what's his name? Corwin in the...
Yeah, the medical bay.
The medical bay, which looks... a lot like the MRI machine from Smith & Jones, but painted red.
Well, I really liked the set of this ship, right? Looked pretty cyberpunk, I guess. There were wires
I think
everywhere and tubes. And
yeah, I think
cool.
Russell T and Chibnall explicitly set the story at the same time period as Satan Pit and the Impossible Planet. So a lot of the aesthetic of the ship and of the technology is supposed to look super similar to the Satan Pit and the Impossible Planet because it's set in the same time. Apparently even the Ood were in the original draft of the script, but then they're like, too similar to Satan Planet and Impossible Pit, so they scrapped the Ood.
And it's real time. Where are you going to put
the Ood were going to get controlled by the sun instead of people on the crew, and they were like, that's a little too similar to Satan Pit.
Yeah, but the people getting controlled also plays into the ecology stuff that happens later on, but we'll get there. But yeah, I it's definitely got some Satan Pit vibes from this.
And I mean, the space suit that the Doctor wears later is identical to the one from Satan Pit and the Impossible Planet. So
no, I didn't notice that, but sure.
Yeah, I think it's even the same prop, and I think the Doctor takes it with him into the TARDIS because the 11th and 12th Doctor wear the same space suit in the next coming seasons. So they've got Corwin in the scanner, and they're like, that's kind of weird. So Martha's going... So the Doctor's with Ashton trying to restart the engine from the actual engine room, and then Martha and... what was his name? Riley are going...
Was it Riley or Scannell?
It's Riley.
I don't know.
It's Riley.
Yeah, they're going to go unlock all the doors.
Yeah, because they want to try restart the engine from the control room, which is at the end of all the corridors.
Yeah, and this beginning portion, like probably the first 10 minutes... and, not even the rest of this story, just the first 10 minutes sort of reminded me of, the way the 10th Doctor was introduced, sort of as, kind of more cocky than other Doctors and, I don't know, just more abrasive, kind of third Doctor-ish, that they kind of just abandoned. This initial, like, I guess, first 10 minutes kind of reminded me of that, kind of went back to that, but, then they just kind of ditch it. So, whatever.
They go back to the 10th
Whether that's
Doctor.
a good decision or not, I don't know.
They go back to the 10th Doctor they've been building up over the series 2 and 3.
Yeah, again, whether that's a good thing, I don't know.
He's still kind of cocky, I think. I think that's definitely something you could say about the 10th Doctor is that he's cocky, more cocky.
Most of the Doctors are. Most of them are.
Yeah.
So maybe the 5th.
5th Doctor was always really laid back and chill, though.
First, definitely. Second, yeah, probably. Third, for sure. Fourth, absolutely, although that was mostly Tom Baker.
Sixth Doctor was like abrasively cocky.
7th, yes. 8th, yes.
8th less so.
I mean,
in
the
so.
one thing we've seen from him in like the 2 audios we listened to, sure. 9th, yes. 10th, yes. Not sure why we felt the need or why I felt the need to go through all of them when we could have just said like, yeah, yes for all of them. But, whatever. Anyway, they go and they're like, hey, Corwin, buddy, are you okay? But he doesn't respond because he's screaming in agony, so he can't talk.
He's too busy screaming to talk.
And he basically dies here. I mean, we don't really know what's wrong with him, but this is kind of his death, I guess.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
He goes, the machine doesn't work, or like it's trying to scan him, but they can't, and the Doctor's like, let me try. But then he just gets controlled by this malevolent force.
Yeah. He gets controlled when they're out of the room, and he kills Abby because Abby's like looking at the scans.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Hey guys, this is kind of weird. He's infected with some sort of parasite." Ah!
Yeah, we don't see how he kills her, but we don't
he
see
opens
how
his eyes.
Yeah, but we don't. I guess that was just me. Like the way he kills people is sort of Cyclops-like, right, from X-Men. Where
and that's 100% intentional.
Is a beam that comes out of his eye. He once he starts being controlled, and I forget actually how he gets the mask on.
He just
I watched
puts
this
it on.
a while ago.
It's just lying on the floor, like in the medical room, and he picks it up and puts it on.
All right then.
But
the mask looks pretty cool. I guess it's actually a helmet because it covers his entire head.
Mm-hmm.
It's red. It looks sort of like a welding mask, but cooler and more sci-fi,
more futuristic. It's definitely, from what I read, intentionally designed after Cyclops' mask.
That's interesting. Like I always say, though, intentionality isn't a factor.
Maybe not, but that's where they got the idea, I guess.
Right, yeah.
He's saying things like, "Burn with me."
Yeah.
It's really what you want to hear from people who are important to you burn with me.
So yeah, he kills what's her face,
Abby.
You see, I guess her ashes just spread out, flattened against the wall. That's a little bit later on.
Yeah, it's kind of like when when they excavated Pompeii, they found a lot of human figures burned into the wall in ash, and they couldn't really explain it until they realized later that extreme heat applied extremely quickly can basically just vaporize the human body, and it'll leave an imprint on the wall. I think they discovered it actually when they dropped nukes on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because the same thing happened there. So,
all right then. Anyway, Corwin's going around killing people.
Yeah, he's just lumbering around telling people to burn with him.
Martha and Riley are pretty successful at opening the first few doors, but then they get stuck on one of the questions. I think it was who had the most
they first get stuck on one with a number sequence, and they don't know the answer, but then the doctor figures it out that it's a sequence of happy primes.
Yeah, and he's really cocky about it, too. He calls him, he's like, don't you know anything? Don't they teach you anything? I was like, really? Really?
Well, he seems really agitated right now, considering they're going to die in 40 minutes and the TARDIS is locked behind a door that if he opens, he'll basically be vaporized.
Right, so, yeah, that part actually kind of reminded me of how they used to, in the first and second Doctor era, they would try and get the TARDIS out of commission in creative ways. And then they kind of just abandoned that with the Doctor just wants to stay to help.
Yeah, they kind of abandoned that when they realized that the Doctor was a more interesting character when he chose to stay instead of being forced to stay every week.
But this is actually a good explanation, I guess, as to why they don't just abandon ship.
Yeah, because the Doctor says, there's only 7 people on the ship, I can get you all off in the TARDIS. And they're like, yeah, you can't go back in that door. And he's like, no! So then Martha and Riley get stuck at this one that's who had the most hit singles, Elvis, the Beatles, or some other band that's not even in contention between Elvis and the Beatles.
No, it was just the Beatles and Elvis. It was
there was a third band, but there definitely was a third band.
No, there definitely wasn't.
Pretty sure there was. I watched this yesterday.
I watched this 5 days ago. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there wasn't a third one. I mean, you can go back and check, but all you'll find is just the Beatles.
You know what? I will.
Elvis.
I will check.
All right, sure. But it was pre-internet, so Martha was like, shoot, I know the answer to this, but not when you bring in the pre-internet factor or something stupid like that.
And the Doctor isn't sure either. He doesn't know if it was Elvis or the Beatles. He just says, I don't know. Martha's like, okay, I'll ask someone else then.
So she calls her mom. She phones a friend.
What is this? Who Wants to Be a Millionaire now?
Who's that guy who was on a 50-day winning streak or something, and he used his phone a friend to tell his dad I know the answer or something like that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, one of the guys who won $1 million used his phone a friend on the $1 million question just to tell his dad that he's about to win $1 million. Honestly, that's what I would do if I still had the phone a friend lifeline on the $1 million question. That's exactly what I do. Is just call someone and be like, I'm about to win $1 million.
Just call for pizza and be like, guess what? Guess where I
call the Domino's,
turn on the TV.
Call the Domino's down the street. Hey, I'd like a large cheese pizza delivered to the studio.
Just order 50 pizzas for everyone because you're about to win $1 million.
The host is like, what are you doing?
Anyway, no, she calls her mom and she's like, hey, Mom, what's the answer to this? And Mom's like, all right, hold your horses. I'm going to get online and I'm going to find out for you. So she goes.
Not without much protest. And why do you only call me when you're in trouble, Martha? Why don't you call me normally, Martha? And Martha's like, because you always berate me for not calling you, Mother.
Anyway, eventually Martha's mom's like, all right, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to find the answer. Oh, the mouse is unplugged. Just hold on. You only call when you need something. So I'm not going to be nice. Not going to go quickly. Meanwhile, there's a countdown. This was the one thing I didn't like about this episode, yet this is just sort of a nitpick. Throughout this, there was the timer or whatever, and it was every 3 minutes. I just didn't think it was necessary to have the time every couple of minutes.
I just got to keep you updated on how our intrepid adventurers are doing.
Maybe every 10 minutes, but every 3 or 4. Nah.
It gets less sporadic later on when things that aren't Martha trying to open doors start happening. But anyway, the answer I think was Elvis or the Beatles. I don't know.
It was one of the two because there were only 2 options.
No. So they open the door and they get through, and
there are a couple other questions they have a hard time with, like what's my favorite color?
Yeah, that one's not till way later though. That's the only other question I think we actually find out, because they're in Section 17 now, and while the Doctor and McDonnell and Scannell have been examining Abby's body, because this is when they find Abby's ashes, I guess, actually, Corwin has basically converted Ashton to also be infected, I guess.
Yeah. And
Ashton's chased after Martha and Riley, and he confronts them in Section 17 of the ship. So they started in Section, 40 or 30 something.
Yeah.
And they've made it to Section 17, and the bridge is in Section 1.
Yeah. But they need to escape from Ashton because he's trying to kill them. Oh, we forgot to mention another person died. Arena, I think her name was.
Yeah.
Killed by Corwin.
The subject of the prologue.
And the Doctor McDonnell doesn't believe that Corwin is, the one murdering everybody.
Because she's married to him.
Yeah. The Doctor's like, nah, you just have to accept that Corwin is being controlled by something.
I think McDonnell asks the Doctor if he can save Corwin. He says, I don't know. And she's like, don't give me false hope, Doctor. I just want to know. Yes or no? And the Doctor's like, yeah, no. The infection is too severe, and no, I can't save him. Sorry.
Pretty sure he also doesn't even know what it is at this point.
Yeah.
Anyway, Martha and Riley are confronted by Ashton, but they get into an escape pod because it's, I guess, the only safe place. I don't think they're planning on launching it, but they just need to, get
put some
distance.
Doors between
put
themselves.
Some doors between them and Ashton, themselves and Ashton. And Ashton's like, oh, shoot, a door, my worst nemesis.
Well, they lock the door, and then Ashton's like, well, I'll just push this button to launch the escape pod. And they're like, So then there's this intense scene where Riley is like pushing buttons really intensely, and then Ashton's pushing buttons really intensely.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. I got to give them credit. Kind of hard to make a scene of just 2 people pushing buttons on control panels interesting, but they managed to do it. Kind of like that Blake 7 scene where it's just a shootout between 2 ships and there's no special effects. It's literally 2 shots in the entire scene, but it somehow manages to be great. That's in Duel. Check out Zenith, our Blake 7 podcast.
Gotta get those shameless self-plugs in there. And then, so
Riley stops it, and then Ashton restarts it.
And then he stops it again, but then the Doctor's run up, finally caught up to them. And then Ashton just smashes the control panel with his fist, and Riley's like, he's crossed the circuits, I can't stop it anymore. Kind of wonder why Ashton didn't do that to begin with, but anyway.
The escape pod launches. I forget how the Doctor deals with Ashton, but Ashton gets put out of commission for a while.
It's because what happens is Scannell basically freezes Corwin with coolant.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
And he goes down, and they think he's dead, but because he's injured, Ashton, I guess because they're infected by the same parasite, is like, oh no, gotta go find out what's going on. So he just leaves.
I mean, yeah, they're connected. That's like an ecological concept, right? Like I guess this takes the concept of ecology and applies it to a sun, which I guess makes sense. But like in actual like modern ecology or like planetary ecology, the idea is that like, and I guess this isn't just an idea. I guess this is actually true, although I don't really know for sure. But like all life and life on a planet and but also like the planet itself, like various cycles, like the rock cycle, water cycle, for example, are all part of like planetary energy. Like they all share energy, because things like the rock cycle affect plants, which affect the things that eat plants, which affects the things that eat them. I'm not explaining it very well, but that's, I guess, just a basic understanding of it.
Yeah. So Ashton and Corwin are connected, and they're connected to the sun as well. Spoiler: the sun's alive.
Yeah.
And so the doctor calls for a spacesuit from Scannell, and he gives him one, and the doctor goes out of the ship because he realizes he can magnetize the ship and bring the escape pod back. Good thing this ship has an escape pod recall feature. That's not something you see on a lot of sci-fi ships, and something that they really should have for these accidental escape pod launches. Martha and Riley have this heart-to-heart in the ship where they're like...
Right before this, there's a I guess, interesting scene, kind of artsy, I guess, where there's no music playing. There's no sound at all, actually. The doctor looks out of the window, and he mouths, "I'll save you," about a dozen times to Martha, but she doesn't understand what he's saying, and the escape pod's just slowly floating away. And then Martha and Riley sort of have this heart-to-heart moment where they're like, well, we're done for. We're flying into the sun.
Yeah, Martha calls her mom and is like, Mom, how's it going?
Yeah.
Martha's mom is trying to find out if the doctor's with Martha, and Martha's like, can we just talk about something else, please? And you're like, why is Martha's mom so intent on finding out if the doctor's with Martha? Well, you'll find out later.
Well, we didn't... So when Martha called her mom before, her mom sort of inquired about the doctor, not like explicitly, but like at the end of the call, she was like, by the way, she says something that she's about to ask if the doctor's with her, but then Martha's like, all right, thanks for the info, Mom, bye. And, now she just wants to talk to her mom. She's like, all right, Mom, just talk. What did you do today? Just want to let you know that I love you, Mom. And, and then I really like this.
You're micromanaging my life. It's okay.
I really like this, but it just pans over and you see Mr. Saxon's team, I guess.
Apparently that mysterious woman who leads Saxon's team was a replacement for the mysterious man from Lazarus Experiment, because the guy who played the mysterious man in Lazarus Experiment was unavailable when they were filming this story. They just replaced him with another character.
Okay. But it actually works to their benefit. It makes it seem like Mr. Saxon has a more wide-reaching and powerful group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really does. He sends 3 people to do this one job. So this one job that could have been done by like one person, really.
So, it's interesting to see, I'm interested to find out what's going to happen, with Martha's mom.
And Mr. Saxon.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're interested to find out who Mr. Saxon is.
Yeah, I am. It's not something...
3 more weeks.
It's not something that's keeping me up at night, but I can say that I'm interested. Sure.
3 more weeks. So then the doctor, while he's outside grabbing the lever, he realizes the sun's alive, and then he gets infected himself. He's like, oh God, I'm infected.
Yeah, he looks into the sun, and there's like a tense moment where he's like, wait a minute, it's alive. I like the special effect they used for the sun. Wasn't anything too over the top, but it looked good.
So then the doctor's screaming and writhing in pain on the floor. He's like, it's burning. It's burning.
He's managing to hold it off better than Corwin and Ashton did, I guess.
Well, he's also not human, so... And that's why the doctor says that he can, they can save him because he's not human. He can survive temperatures as low as -200, and they need to basically freeze the parasite out of him.
Same.
So he's like, get me in the scanner or the stasis thing, put me down to -200, but, freeze this thing out of me. Let's go, baby. And he basically also... The parasite does break through a little bit because McDonald's like, what's going on, doctor? And he's like, it was your fault, because Corwin also says... Yeah, we forgot the scene where Corwin and McDonald kind of
confront each other.
This was right before Scannell freezes Corwin.
Yeah, so Corwin keeps repeating that it's McDonald's fault. McDonald's like, I know you're still in there, Corwin. What do you mean by my fault?
He's like, you should know. It's your fault, you bloody fool. Okay. So they get the doctor to the stasis pod. Or stasis MRI machine.
The medical bay.
And they put him in.
They put him in. It doesn't really work, though.
Well, yeah, so there's this touching scene between Martha and the doctor. And Martha's like, you've saved me many times before. It's my turn to save you, doctor. And he's like, the pain, it burns. And she's like, okay, shh, quiet now, I'm going to do it. And he's like, oh, please, hurry. And she turns it on. He starts screaming even more because now he's being subjected to extreme cold and extreme heat at the same time.
Yeah, I really like this part between Martha and the doctor, better than the stupid romance that they've been building up.
Yes.
And, that's one of the reasons why this story was so much better than anything from Series 3 so far is that, there's no romance in it.
They tend to mostly drop the romance between Martha and the Doctor
starting now.
Actually, it's like a pretty important thing to the resolution of next week's story, but I think it works next week. I think it works. But then it's not really a huge thing until the end of until the season ends, I guess.
All right, I guess I'll find out.
We're almost there. I'm just excited that we're almost at Donna, to be honest.
Anyway, I don't know if this is right now, but it's at least pretty soon where McDonald sort of explains what they were doing. The Doctor's like, hey, the sun that you were excavating, I guess, for lack of a better word, is alive.
Yeah.
So good job, guys. And McDonald's like, oh, shoot, I didn't know. Because there was this little bit of dialogue that I think is pretty hard to miss near the beginning where the crew is hinted at using some either illegal or like untested.
It's illegal.
Illegal
because
device or something.
Yeah, because when the Doctor explains that they should have scanned, she says it would have taken too much time and they would have been caught because fusion scoops are illegal.
Oh yeah, fusion scoops.
And the Doctor's like, damn it, why? This could have all been avoided if you would just freaking follow the law.
Yeah.
Which is true.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't say it like that. I mean, I'm obviously exaggerating his meaning, but it's true, actually, for once.
Yeah, I mean, but it's more than that, right? It's like, you know, the sun itself is alive. So in a lot of ecological stories, like I mentioned before, I'm a big fan of science fiction stories that incorporate ecology. You know, well, Crime and Punishment is not science fiction, but basically, in my opinion, the grandfather of all modern ecological stories. You know, I also like a lot of Ursula K. Le Guin stuff, Lathe of Heaven, and all of her short stories, which basically are all about ecology, like literally every single one of them, and a bunch of other stuff too. But yeah, they incorporated it really well here, right? Because you know what's bad for, well, in most ecological stories, the planet, but in this case, the sun is bad for the individual as well.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of goes back to the everything being connected thing that you were talking about earlier, right?
Yep.
So, you know, damaging the sun or the planet damages you because of that whole interconnectedness. So the Doctor tells Martha that, because they basically cut the power, because they only get down to -70, and the Doctor's like, tells Martha to go basically vent all the fuel.
They only have a couple minutes left at this point.
To return all the sun particles to the sun. And they get to the... Well, so Riley and Scannell make it to the bridge, but McDonald ends up running into Corwin. Don't really know what happens to Ashton. He kind of just disappears.
I think he dies. Pretty sure. Well, I mean, Corwin and Ashton are both dead, but like, yeah, I guess Ashton is just off somewhere.
Yeah. But McDonald runs into Corwin and basically says she understands, you know, it was her fault. She's sorry.
Yeah,
she'll always love Corwin.
Yeah, she's like, all right, she tells him that she's going to start taking responsibility. That, which is also another key concept in ecology, both in stories and like the actual science of it, is the concept of responsibility. But you know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, she also proceeds to immediately stop taking responsibility, largely because she dies.
Well, I mean,
she apologizes to her crew. She basically turns on the intercom and apologizes to everyone, and everyone's like, wait, McDonald, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then the airlock vents and the computer's kind of like outer airlock vented in section 17 or whatever. And she goes flying into space with Corwin.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Martha is...
She makes it to the bridge.
Yeah, she's dumping all the fuel.
Yeah, because Riley and Scannell try to restart the engines, but it's not working because I guess Ashton's messed with something. And so Martha tells them to vent all the sun particles back to the sun and return them, basically. And when they do that, then I guess either Ashton or the sun or whatever reactivates the engines and they leave on auxiliary power.
Yep.
They're able to get away. They were 1 minute away from impact. They probably would have been burned to death at that point, especially since 3 minutes before that, the computer was like, heat shields at 5%, imminent failure.
Yeah, I forgot that they brought back the heat shield, you know. Classic Classic Doctor Who piece of technology from the Daemons.
Classic just science piece of technology. Heat shields are really important. Heat shields are like really, really finicky too, I guess. They're like you need all of the heat shield to work or the heat shield just doesn't work at all.
I mean, is this a real thing? Like,
yeah.
Right.
So like the space shuttle, I think Challenger was the one that blew up on when it was being launched. And I think Columbia was the one where when it was being launched, a piece of the launch tower, a piece of the space shuttle broke off and knocked some of the heat shielding loose on the space shuttle, and it basically ended up disintegrating in the atmosphere. It was a really big tragedy because NASA, when they were watching the video, they saw that something had hit the space shuttle.
Wasn't that the one where somebody measured it in like inches instead of centimeters and screwed everything up?
No, I think that was Challenger. I might be getting the two names mixed up, but yeah, NASA had seen that something had knocked the space shuttle when it launched, and they weren't sure, how big of a problem that was going to be, like if it had knocked the heat shielding loose, and they tried to basically make
it'll be fine
as much repairs as possible, but it ended up being a critical failure.
Yeah.
So heat shields are really complex and difficult and require basically the entire thing to work, or it doesn't work.
But anyway, Martha saves the day. This is one of the best stories for Martha overall.
Yeah, definitely.
She's actually, doing things.
She gets kind of her time in the sun. She gets her opportunity to save the day. Rose got one like every other week. But yeah, like Martha says when the Doctor's in the stasis pod, like, you save me every time. Now it's my turn to save you.
I think Rose actually had almost those exact same lines.
Yeah, this story, once
again,
again,
remember where.
Best hits of Russell T. I think even when Rose had her phone upgraded, the first person she called was her mom as well.
All right, yeah. I mean, all right, sure. I guess that's a similarity.
I mean, I noticed it like immediately as soon as Martha was like, I'm going to call my mom. I was like, wait a minute, didn't Rose do the same thing?
Yeah, they are almost exactly the same character.
Which is a real bummer because Martha started off, when they introduced Martha, it seemed like they had a clear other direction they could have taken her because she was a doctor. She was like, she had like a prestigious job, I guess, lined up because she was training to be a doctor. Actually, she wasn't a doctor yet. She was like intelligent. Had
family problems, similar to Rose, but different.
Yeah. And then that all went to pot, so to speak.
Well, they're kind of bringing it back with her mom, cooperating with Mr. Saxon. But
yeah, I think that's the most interesting thing about Martha is that her mom is basically actively working against her. I mean, yeah, Jackie didn't want Rose to travel with the Doctor, but it was never like Jackie called up the Slovene and was like, hey, you want to know where the Doctor is? Because I'll tell you. Like, Francine is like very definitely working against Martha traveling with the Doctor.
Yeah, I forgot her name was Francine. Well, she's working against the Doctor in what she thinks is Martha's interest, but yeah. Anyway, that's basically the end of that.
Well, yeah, so they get back to the TARDIS, and they're like, well, we could put out a distress signal, but we don't know how we're going to explain this. And the Doctor's like, just tell the truth, because honestly, someone needs to protect the sun. We can't have more fusion scoops coming through here, or more people coming in here and getting killed. We can't have people coming in here trying to kill the sun, so, just tell the truth.
People coming in here trying to kill the moon. Ha ha. Ha.
Don't remind me of that actual travesty of an episode.
And that's that. We don't find out if they ever, take responsibility for their actions.
No, but Martha does.
Presumably they do.
Martha tries to crack a joke about something, and the Doctor doesn't really respond. I think because he just had a near-death experience.
I don't even remember that.
The Doctor's seems really solemn, and Martha then kind of feels bad for cracking a joke.
I don't remember any of that.
The Doctor gives her a TARDIS key and says, here's frequent flyer privileges. She's like, cool. And he's like, how about we go ice skating on the moons of somewhere? And she's like, whatever you want. And then she calls her mom one more time. And her mom's like, why don't you come over tomorrow for tea? Martha's like, yeah, I'll be there for tea. Right, Doctor, we'll be there for tea, right? Obviously, she's saying yes because she can just be there for tea because they're in a time machine.
Yeah.
But then I think it kind of ends on a tense exchange between Francine and Mr. Saxon's people, because Martha's like, oh, what day is it? Remind me, because obviously Martha doesn't know. Francine's like, oh, it's election day. And Martha's like, right, election day. And Francine's like...
they ask Francine if she's voted yet. And she's like, yeah, but don't expect me to tell you who for.
Yeah, so this is the vote for, I think, Prime Minister, maybe, because Harriet Jones has been outed, I think, at this point.
Well, I mean, whatever the case is, you can assume that it's the vote Mr. Saxon is running for.
Yeah, Mr. Saxon is involved somehow, and obviously Mr. Saxon wants people to vote for Mr. Saxon. I mean, the first appearance of the phrase, Saxon and Mr. Saxon was on a poster that said, vote Mr. Saxon in Smith & Jones,
yep.
So... And
yeah, that's that.
Yeah, so the Mr. Saxon plotline is heating up. Do you know
Just like this story.
Lots of heat puns. Do you know when Martha leaves?
Nope.
Okay, then I won't say what I was going to say.
I'm guessing it's the end of this season, but I don't know.
Well, all I'll say is that during the story they announced that in episodes after this season that famous singer Kylie Minogue was going to appear in a Doctor Who episode.
What?
That was apparently like a really big deal because Kylie Minogue was pretty famous in 2007, I guess.
I don't really even... I recognize the name, but I don't really even know who she is.
I mean, she's like a British or maybe even Australian singer. I don't think she was ever really big in the US, though.
Huh. Mm.
But yeah, they announced, I think, during the production of the story, the airing of the story, that she was going to be on an episode of Doctor Who in the future, so...
Well, all right then.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to bring that up. And yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about the story. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like I mentioned before, this is top 5 for me, including all the classic series stuff. Probably the only thing from the 2005 series that I would, currently put in my top 5.
Yeah. And I mean, I texted this to Keon during the week when he mentioned that this was like his favorite episode of the reboot, that I think this story is the start of basically one of the strongest straight runs of episodes that Doctor Who has for the next 5 seasons. I think here through the final hour, final story of the season, the final story's but the next 5 episodes plus this one,
3-parter.
The next 5 episodes plus this one, so 6, I guess, are, in my opinion, one of the strongest reboot runs of Doctor Who that they've ever put out. So,
well, that's good, I guess. I mean, I guess they just front-loaded this season with the not as good ones.
Possibly. Although, I don't know how intentional that would have been.
No, I mean, I don't think, the writers writing let's put all this garbage at the beginning so the last 5 seem better, but... But that's what it ended up being, so...
Can you imagine getting a letter or a phone call from Russell T that's like, so your story was a little subpar, so I think we're going to air it at the beginning of the season. So we just wanted to let you know we're going to be setting everybody up for disappointment. Anyway, email us at thedoctor@decorativvegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, anger, rants, love letters, your thoughts on Chris Chibnall. I didn't mention this earlier, but actually a lot of people just consider this episode okay and not good or great.
Well, they're wrong. Just factually, objectively wrong.
Okay. And Chris Chibnall, future showrunner of the show. I'm curious to see.
It's promising.
I'm curious to see, if his run is going to be similar to this story, or if he's going to draw on a lot of concepts that he introduces in the story or not. And you can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Google Play at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next time we're watching...
Oh.
No idea what we're watching next time.
It's Human Nature and the Family of Blood.
But until then, the end.